A brush dripping with thick black oil paint touches human skin, and in an instant, an ordinary man begins to disappear. What looks like a painted mask is actually a mirror reflecting a deeply hidden human truth. The air inside this dressing room is thick with the scent of old camphor wood, melting wax, and damp silk. It is late afternoon in a narrow alleyway just behind the rushing avenues of Beijing. But inside this small rectangular room, the century has entirely shifted. Dust motes drift slowly through a single beam of golden sunlight falling across a cracked vanity mirror. The city outside hums with traffic, digital notifications, and the relentless speed of modern life. But inside this room, there is only the quiet, steady rhythm of breathing. An older man named Master Zhou sits perfectly still before the glass. His hands are weathered, showing the silent evidence of passing decades. Yet when he picks up a thin bamboo brush, his fingers possess an absolute terrifying certainty. He dips the brush into a shallow porcelain dish of crimson pigment. He traces a sharp, dramatic line from the bridge of his nose up toward his temples. He does not blink. He is 58 years old. But the face looking back at him from the mirror is slowly becoming immortal, preparing to reveal a truth that most of us spend our lives trying to hide. Watching him systematically erase his own identity beneath layers of stark white, deep black, and vivid red, a profound question settles into the quiet space of the room. Why spend an entire lifetime mastering an art that demands your complete erasure? Why sacrifice your voice, your face, and your physical comfort just to keep an ancient ghost alive? Welcome to Culture Journey. Today, we step quietly into the backstage shadows of traditional Chinese opera. Beyond the historical dates and the names of fallen dynasties, there is a profoundly human story waiting here. A story about the people who breathe life into ancient ghosts. We are here to witness the immense devotion required to carry the weight of memory. There is a specific kind of beauty that only exists when someone is willing to surrender themselves completely to a story. And as we will discover, painting a face is not an act of hiding. It is an act of absolute revelation. Master Zhou leans closer to the glass. The transformation takes hours. It cannot be rushed. It is a slow, methodical ritual that forces the mind to quiet down and leave the ordinary world behind. He begins with a stark white foundation, rubbing the dense paste into his pores until the warm tone of his natural skin is gone. He is no longer a father, a neighbor, or a man who takes the subway. He is becoming a canvas. There is a profound philosophy hidden inside these small porcelain dishes of color. In the ordinary world, we spend our lives trying to hide our true intentions. We smile when we are angry. We look confident when we are terrified. But on this stage, the truth is painted directly onto the skin. You begin to notice that the colors are not merely decorative. They are an ancient emotional language. Red speaks of unwavering loyalty and fierce courage. White reveals treachery, suspicion, and cunning. Black represents an impartial, rough, and honest heart. Gold and silver belong to gods, spirits, and beings of the invisible realms. Before a character even speaks a single word, their soul is entirely visible to everyone in the room. Could you imagine living in a world where our truest intentions were painted on our faces for everyone to see? Where nothing could be hidden behind polite conversation? Perhaps that is why this art form commands such quiet reverence. It offers an honesty that the real world rarely allows. As Master Zhou adds a fierce stroke of black above his brow, a young apprentice enters the room carrying a thermos of hot jasmine tea. The apprentice moves with careful reverence, pouring the pale yellow liquid into a glass cup. Master Zhou takes the cup, wrapping his long fingers around the warm glass. He does not speak. In these final moments before the performance, silence is treated as something deeply sacred. The transition from human to myth requires intense psychological concentration, but the paint is only the beginning of the burden. We watch as two assistants approach to help him dress. This is not clothing. It is architecture. The embroidered silk garments weigh nearly 40 pounds. They are constructed from countless layers of heavy fabric, vibrant threads, and stiff collars that force the spine into perfect, unyielding alignment. Then comes the most difficult part of the preparation. An assistant takes a long, damp cloth band and begins to wrap it tightly around Master Zhou's head. He pulls the fabric with immense force, drawing the skin at the temples upward and backward. The tension pulls the eyes into sharp, dramatic angles. It is a deeply uncomfortable process. The tight binding restricts blood flow and often causes dizzying headaches. Over the decades, it leaves permanent indentations on the skin. Yet, Master Zhou's expression remains entirely serene. He accepts the discomfort as a necessary bridge between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Grace, we realize, is rarely born from comfort. It is almost always the result of invisible suffering, beautifully endured. We walk out of the dressing room and step into the narrow wings of the stage. The contrast is jarring. Just a few streets away, towering glass skyscrapers glow with neon advertisements. Millions of people are swiping glowing screens, consuming stories in 15-second fragments, rushing constantly toward the future. It is a culture that worships speed and convenience. Yet here, inside this aging wooden theater, time has entirely stopped. This is one of the great cultural paradoxes of modern life. In a society rushing relentlessly toward tomorrow, this theater remains a living vessel of memory. People do not gather here simply to escape the modern world. They come to reconnect with a rhythm that has pulsed through their culture for centuries. Through the heavy velvet curtains, we can hear the audience taking their seats. We peek through the fabric to look at them. They are mostly older men and women, treating the theater not as a formal venue, but as a communal living room. Many hold weathered glass jars filled with hot tea leaves, while the casual, rhythmic cracking of sunflower seeds blends perfectly into the relaxed intimacy of the space. They have not come here to be surprised. They already know the story. They know exactly how it ends. They know every single lyric, every gesture, and every pause. In Western theater, the audience watches to find out what will happen next. But here, they watch to see exactly how a master breathes new life into a familiar truth. They do not come for the plot. They come for the perfection of the craft. They are not consumers of entertainment. They are participants in a shared cultural memory. When the actors breathe, the audience breathes with them. They keep time by tapping their fingers softly against their knees. They nod when a phrase is delivered with the proper emotional weight. It is a community confirming its own existence through the repetition of ancient poetry. Suddenly, the silence backstage shatters. A piercing crash of brass cymbals and a sharp crack of wooden clappers tear through the air. The music does not swell gently. It strikes like lightning. To an unfamiliar ear, the sound can feel overwhelming, almost chaotic. The high-pitched, piercing wail of the bamboo jinghu and the relentless pounding of the drums seem to fight against each other. But if you close your eyes and simply listen to the rhythm, you begin to understand. This music is not meant to be a soothing melody. It is meant to represent the chaotic, turbulent heartbeat of the human experience. The musicians do not use sheet music. They sit in the shadows just off the stage, watching Master Zhou intently. The music follows his breath. When he inhales, the strings stretch. When he steps, the drum strikes. The musicians and the actor are bound together by an invisible thread of absolute trust. Master Zhou takes a deep breath. His chest expands beneath the heavy silk. The curtain is pulled back. He steps out into the brilliant, blinding light of the stage. The moment his foot touches the wooden floorboards, the old man we watch drinking tea entirely vanishes. He becomes a towering, terrifying general from a dynasty that fell 1,000 years ago. His movements are impossibly fluid, defying the heavy weight of his costume. We watch closely as he walks. This is another moment of quiet discovery. In this theater, realism is banished. There are no elaborate sets. There are no painted mountains or wooden horses. The physical world is created entirely through human movement. When Master Zhou lifts his foot and steps carefully over an invisible line, the audience understands instantly that he has just crossed the threshold of a palace. When he raises a bamboo whip adorned with vivid silk tassels, they know he is commanding a galloping horse. When he walks in a slow circle around the perimeter of the stage, he has just traveled 1,000 miles across a vast desert. Everything is symbolic. Everything is distilled into its purest form. A commanding sweep of the heavy embroidered flags fastened to his back can represent a sudden rainstorm, a feeling of deep despair, or the mobilization of a massive army. What would it be like to command the physical world with such profound simplicity? To tell an entire epic story using nothing but the subtle turning of your hands? In our modern lives, we rely so heavily on external things to explain who we are and what we are feeling. But here, the human body is enough. The human body contains the entire universe. From the center of the stage, Master Zhou opens his mouth to sing. The sound that emerges is not a natural speaking voice. It is highly stylized, piercing, and sustained. It vibrates with a metallic intensity that cuts straight through the heavy percussion. The vocal technique takes decades to master. It requires the singer to draw air from the very bottom of the stomach, allowing it to resonate deep within the chest and echo through the mask of the face, creating a thunderous sound that commands the absolute back of the theater without a microphone. It is a voice designed to bridge the gap between heaven and earth. It sounds like weeping and laughing at exactly the same time. Looking at the faces in the audience, you can see the emotional resonance landing softly in their eyes. An older woman in the second row stops cracking her melon seeds. She rests her hands in her lap and simply watches, her eyes shining with quiet recognition. What is she remembering right now? Is she thinking about her youth? Is she recalling a time when her parents brought her to a theater just like this one? These traditions are the invisible anchors that hold generations together. They are the fixed points in a rapidly changing world. When the city outside tears down old buildings to build new ones, when the physical landscape becomes unrecognizable, this stage remains exactly as it was. What traditions are we slowly letting slip away in our own lives because they require too much patience to understand? What memories are we failing to pass down simply because we are too busy rushing forward? Watching this performance, it becomes difficult not to feel a sudden, quiet ache for the things that take time to build. There is an immense, heavy beauty in watching a group of people collectively agree to preserve something fragile. As the story reaches its climax, Master Zhou strikes a final dramatic pose. The music swells to a chaotic crescendo, the cymbals crashing in a flurry of metallic light. Then, with a sudden sharp strike of the wooden block, everything stops. Absolute silence falls over the theater. Master Zhou holds the pose. The audience holds their breath. For 3 agonizingly beautiful seconds, nobody moves. It is a moment of pure, suspended perfection. Then the crowd erupts. They do not just clap. They call out in loud, appreciative voices. "How?" they shout from the darkness. "Good." The word bounces off the wooden rafters, a genuine expression of gratitude for the man who brought their history back to life for an hour. Master Zhou bows slowly. The fierce, terrifying general softens. The curtain falls. We follow him back into the quiet sanctuary of the dressing room. The atmosphere has changed. The tense anticipation is gone, replaced by a heavy, exhausted relief. Master Zhou sits back down in front of the cracked mirror. His chest heaves heavily beneath the layers of silk. Sweat is rolling down the thick white and red paint on his face, causing the stark lines to blur and run. The young apprentice steps forward to help remove the heavy headdress. The moment the tight bands are unwound from his temples, you can see profound relief wash over Master Zhao's body. He closes his eyes and exhales a long, deep breath. The invisible suffering is over. He takes a soft cloth covered in warm oil and slowly begins to wipe away the paint. This is perhaps the most emotional moment of the entire journey. The fierce black eyebrows disappear. The courageous red cheeks melt away. The stark white mask dissolves into smeared colors. With each slow wipe of the cloth, the myth fades, and the mortal man returns. The deep wrinkles around his eyes reappear. The soft, tired humanity of a 58-year-old man looking at himself in the glass comes back into focus. He is no longer an immortal general. He is just Master Zhou again. A man whose back hurts. A man who will soon put on a simple gray jacket, walk out the back door of the theater, and take the evening bus home through the neon-lit streets of the city. Why do they do it? Why give up your face? Looking at his calm reflection, the answer finally feels clear. They do not erase themselves to hide. They erase themselves because some stories are larger than a single human life. To tell a truth that belongs to 1,000 years of history, you have to be willing to set your own small ego aside. You have to empty yourself so that the past can flow through you. It is an act of profound generosity. Master Zhou lends his body, his breath, and his face to the ancestors, ensuring that they are never truly forgotten. Outside, the autumn wind is picking up, rustling the golden leaves of the ginkgo trees lining the alleyway. The audience has already dispersed, walking back to their apartments, carrying the echoes of the symbols in their minds. The theater goes dark. The costumes are hung carefully back in the wooden wardrobes. The porcelain dishes of paint wait silently for tomorrow. We travel the world searching for monumental architecture, stunning landscapes, and famous ruins. But so often the most extraordinary landscapes we discover are the ones painted on the human face. The most resilient monuments are not made of stone or steel. They are made of breath, memory, and the quiet dedication of people who refuse to let the past fade into silence. Thank you for walking with us today on Culture Journey. If this quiet moment backstage made you reflect on the fading traditions in your own world, I would love to read your thoughts in the comments below. What is something beautiful your culture is fighting to preserve? If you value this kind of slow, meaningful storytelling, I invite you to subscribe. Let us continue traveling the world together, not just to see new places, but to understand them. There are so many more stories waiting to be remembered. Until next time, travel gently.